So let's talk about hot topic. DK Metcalf,
Your boy.
my guy.
Your
Yeah,
boy
weird,
DK
weird how
Metcalf.
like that's like a trending thing right now. But apparently, according to Travis, he's not any good.
That's not even remotely close.
Verbatim.
Okay.
I just was playing because I love the game. Like, crap. And it's scary to me.
It's really easy for the game to become a job.
Low six in his hands, whistle in his mouth.
Man, kids out there playing the game, staying out of trouble, competing. I love it.
Anyways, kind of the thing that's going out there right now is like, should he have done it? Should he not? First off, I'll preface it and say, who cares what these people think? Half of them couldn't get up right now and go do that in the first place. But I mean, I think it is. I think it is up for discussion. Like, well, why did he do it? Should he have done it? Blah blah blah. What are your thoughts with that whole thing?
So 2 people responded on social media in reference to just him running. And let me rephrase that. 2 people responded that I agreed with. There were millions of people that responded. And like you said, who cares? They're stupid. Emmanuel Acho walked right up to him and said, "Why'd you do it?" And he said, "For myself." He said, who'd you run this race for? He said, "Myself."
Mm-hmm.
Too many people are scared to just come out and compete.
Sure.
I'm paraphrasing, but it was something pretty close to that. And another guy was talking about track and athletes. "Coach, why would I want to run track if I know I'm going to go lose?" And he said, competitors find ways to compete. And that's all DK did. Nobody looked at those qualifying times. I mean, there's 2 Olympic qualifiers in his heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that race. Nobody looked at those and were like, "Oh, he's for sure got this." But Emmanuel Acho made another great point. Or it might have been somebody else. If that's a 60-meter dash, he's in the hunt. You know,
Yeah.
he's not trained physically to run 100 meters at a sustained top
He's
speed.
240 pounds.
Facts. So the fact that you go out there and you go 10.37, and then, I had some buddies on Twitter talking about like he would have finished 6th or 7th at the UIL state meet with the 6A kids. Like,
Yeah.
right. And they weigh 70 pounds less than him.
Right.
And they've been training for that since, their whole life, but hardcore specific training since January, February. So the biggest thing for me is, first off, I don't hate DK. I just don't think he's top 3. But the biggest thing for me is that a guy went out there and lined up with the best of the best and said, "I don't care if I might not win. I'm going to see where I stand, and I'm going to go compete and see what it's like." So just from that standpoint alone, you have to do nothing but respect it.
Yeah, I think the big thing too is like, you see so many adults nowadays, coaches talking about specialization in sports and into one sport only and how we need to stop it. And then you kind of have these same people that are like, "Oh, he shouldn't have done it. He's the best football player ever." Like, if anything, this only helps that debate. Like, if you're an athlete, you're an athlete.
100%. I mean, the whole thing, like, I saw people on there saying, like, he didn't perform well and he didn't do this. It's like, right, but the message that you just conveyed in that one tweet is the same message that deters kids from playing 2 sports in high school. And this guy's
Absolutely.
talking about being a professional football player, one of the better professional football players, and he's going out there and competing in another sport, not worried about the outcomes, solely focused on the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, on the flip side, I mean, let's take everybody that he competed against, put them against Richard Sherman, and let him get off press man coverage.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
See
by
what
the
happens.
way, let's take the kids that ran in that race. I say kids, they're grown men. Okay. You go out there and try and run any type of over route that has 3 different options, and you're having to read coverage of a roll safety and be exactly where Russell Wilson wants you to be to throw a perfect ball. And you have to catch it knowing that somebody's going to crash and hit you in the rib cage
Right.
as hard as they can.
And it's not to say that the people that competed against DK, it's not to show disrespect to them, because I think every one of those guys, obviously being an athlete, they understand.
They're not the ones saying it.
Exactly. Yeah, they probably had more respect, if any, than anybody else, because they competed against this 240-pound avatar that just went 10.36. And so, but it's the other people on the outside understanding, like, basically just walk out the locker room. Let me go ahead and just train for this for a couple of weeks, and then pop out at 10.36 at 240 pounds. Not a lot of people can do that in the first place, so it's pretty special.
100%. I mean, Robert Griff tweeted kind of a follow-up to that, just touching on what you said. Track athletes are some of the most undervalued and underappreciated athletes in the world. One of the quickest things I learned when I got to Baylor, the old staff, Guy Morris's staff, the strength conditioning coach, his name was Big John. And he had some pretty old school rules as far as the football team when we would go in there. You know, no showing jewelry, take your earrings out, you know, little stuff like that. Here comes the track team. And at the time, this is like peak quarter mile U, right? This is early 2000s. This is like, these dudes couldn't move. Open quarter mile relay, that's what Baylor was. And these dudes come in, earrings, rings, chain. They come in, they do like 3 sets of 6, 185 pounds on squat. Guy shuts it down early, and he's like, I'm going across the road, like just talking about the hallway to the training room. I said, Big John, said, you've been up our butts about jewelry, being dressed right, shirt tucked in. I said, my man just walked in here with who knows how many CZs from Claire's hanging off of him. He said, you see that kid walking away? Not 1, not 2, 3-time national champion. You become a 3-time national champion, you can wear whatever you want in here. We kind of laughed, and I was like, oh, okay, it's like that. But then he followed it up with, the fact of the matter is he earned the right to wear that, but not just on God-given ability. Him shutting it down early had nothing to do with him cutting corners. Him shutting it down early had to do with how fine-tuned his body is and how well-versed he is in it. He can respond at the drop of a hat to what his body's telling him. Yeah. A lot of guys can't do that. Elite athletes can, and good professional track athletes are the elite of the elite when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I think to end the whole topic is, at the end of the day, you have the LeBron and the Michael Jordan conversation, and for me, it's like, man, let's just embrace and appreciate it, and stop trying to figure out who's best, and just know that we're witnessing greatness right now. And back then when Michael Jordan witnessed it then, just embrace it and love it and appreciate it, and stop trying to figure out something negative about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's that transitional phase that were almost like the dark days of the NBA. You had Magic, Kareem, Bird, right? You had those all playing in that same time frame. And then the early 80s, MJ's early career, the NBA was just kind of, it didn't have a shining light. It didn't have that guy. And then MJ comes into his own, and the Bulls start to win some games, and good things start to happen, right? And that led to the development of other great players.
Right.
And we see this transitional effect of MJ to Kobe to LeBron, right? And everybody's so worried about saying who's number one. Nobody's saying this might be the greatest continuance of an era of basketball or any professional sport ever.
Yeah, I mean, you got DK and you got Devontae Smith. Quit being pissed off about it and just enjoy it.
And who cares what they look like?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They said something right after he got picked. Everybody talking about how much he weighed and how tall he was leading up to the draft. And, Mel Kiper and his minions are sitting there talking about Devontae Smith. And I can't remember who it was. I don't want to credit Booger McFarland because I don't, he's got some interesting takes sometimes. Yeah. But it may have been, they said, size isn't a skill. And the transition of like early 2000s draft picks of receivers to the past 3 years have gone from like 6'3", 6'4", 210 to like 5'10", $185.
Yeah, I think the average was like right at a 5'11" or something like that. That's what the average was this past year.
So, one thing I want to touch on. First off, I don't know if you noticed, I got my J. Cole sweatshirt on. Friday. Okay, everybody be on the lookout. The greatest rapper alive is dropping a new album. But
it's not a lie.
True story. But I started thinking about that whenever he posted that his new album was coming out, and I might be one of the biggest J. Cole fans there is, just from a respect standpoint.
Yeah, and like it pisses me off primarily because like he's the type of dude that like you get in the car and like if you're trying to like listen to your favorite J. Cole song or even one that has a feature J. Cole, I mean, he's gonna go ahead and just start rapping it out like he is J. Cole, and not even close, and just ruins the song every time. But he knows all the lyrics, so I'll give him props for that. So, I mean, so it is what it is.
Okay, well, I'm trying to grow out of that phase.
Yeah.
But one thing that I never got to take advantage of was like major label album J. Cole was not while I was playing. I mean, Sideline Story came out, but even J. Cole will tell you it's kind of trash. But there was not like a consistent, like Power Trip was after I was done playing.
Yep.
And then Forest Hills Drive, obviously. So I never really had like him in my game day, like pregame repertoire outside of Sideline Story, which had, I mean, not Sideline Story, but the warm up, which had Young Simba, Dead Presidents 2. If you don't know those, you need to get on Amazon Music and go ahead and listen to them. But one thing, there was one song that was always played every Friday, every Saturday from the time I was a sophomore in high school to the time I finished at Baylor. And before I say what it was, did you have one of those?
Did I have what?
That one song that like obviously people listen to music before a game, but like it wasn't, you weren't in pregame mode until you heard that song.
Yeah, I'm a big phase guy, so I feel like, I mean, each year was probably different because like I'm the dude that will end up like hearing a song, and I'm gonna rock that song out like every day, all day for probably a month until I hate the song. So it's probably different every single year, but yeah, I mean, I can't think of one on the top of my head.
So that's a real buzzkill. Mine was Rough Riders Anthem, which, you know, R.I.P. to DMX.
Dude,
but
I'll get you right.
I started thinking about it. That might be the most like, from a competition standpoint, like generational connector, right? When that song came out, if you went and turned that on right now in a locker room, A, everybody's gonna know the lyrics, and B, everybody's gonna be ready to do or win whatever it is they're about to do. Oh, you're going to the weight room? Okay. You're about to win the weight room. Oh, you're going to practice? Yep. You're about to win practice.
Very true.
But you have to be careful because in a group setting, you can't burn that out. Like for me, I listened to it by myself. Headphones were pretty low. It was usually about the time that I was getting my ankles taped.
Yep. But
you can burn that song out in a group setting where it's like, oh, great, here we go again. That means we have 3 minutes before we go to practice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, so were you straight DMX and
it was it? No,
really.
Rough Riders Anthem, and then it would be kind of like you said, a mix of some new, some old, like as far as like pregame playlist.
Like Eminem, 8 Mile type stuff.
No, it was. Like I will tell you that me and Antoine Goodley spent like almost an entire season, either in the hotel or on the way to the game, doing the 8 Mile freestyle, like listening to the 8 Mile freestyle battles, like at the end of the movie.
Like, and Clarence's parents had a real good marriage.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. But the other one was Most City Dawn by Zero.
Oh yeah.
And then
Slow Ride Banging.
Right.
Yeah.
Throw in some Big Tuck, but those were kind of the go-tos. But it always had to start like even now, like it gets to be we're either on the bus going to a game, or it gets to be about 10 minutes before we go in and start taping our kids. I'm gonna hit play. It's gonna start with Rough Riders Anthem, and then it's gonna follow with either Zero, Big Tuck, and then throw in some J. Cole.
Mm-hmm.
But I just always found that like the more you think about it, Rough Riders Anthem is like the ultimate like competition, especially football song, because he was so just aggressive.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. One thing that David Goggins, you follow him?
I've heard of him.
He is like
insane,
complete psychopath in a good way. I love David Goggins. Just tells it like it is. It's real. And he was like actually in the Alabama weight room, and I think he was talking to them as like motivational, something like that. And he was doing a video, and he was getting a workout in before he actually talked to them. And basically, the music was blaring in the weight room because he was, getting after it. And he was like, man, because he doesn't listen to music when he works out.
Right.
Or does anything. He's like, I'm not into music. All these kids, they got to listen to music to get them all hyped up. But what's going to happen when the music shuts off? You get hit in the face. I'm like, dude, that hit home really hard. Because, like no cap, I think everybody's been in that situation where, like, you're hyped up and you're, like, ready to go. And you hop on the court, you hop on the field, you kind of get, like, mollywopped a little bit. And like, oh, shoot. Like, I kind of wasn't ready for that right there. And then, it's like the Mike Tyson thing. Everybody's got a plan. What happens to get hit in the mouth? You know what I'm saying? So, been trying to kind of experiment with that lately, but yeah, I mean, it's David Goggins. You guys that don't follow him. That dude's incredible. And if you get up at 4 a.m. like myself, and you're kind of like, should I hit snooze? Quickly, reach your finger over, type in David Goggins into Instagram, and then you'll hop right out of bed. You'll be good.
Yeah, you'll be up immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's funny that you bring up David Goggins because we have a nucleus of kids. So our kids lift every morning 6:30, or Monday through Thursday, I should say. So 4 days a week they're at school 6:30 lifting before they go to class. And we normally don't have music on, but every once in a while, Big Bill he'll be feeling the flow, and he'll go over there and plug in some of his 80s metal bands playlist. And that small nucleus of kids, they're big David Goggins fans. And they'll, I just look at them and they'll all drop their head and be like, no PRs today. We got too many distractions. Music's on. We can't lift.
Really?
They're obviously kidding.
I kind of love it, though.
Yeah. So they're big David Goggins guys. So his influence has taken over the next generation of Salina football players.
I love that.
Thank goodness.
Seriously, though. Yeah.
So, moving on to a completely new topic. We talked about the Lau Leong play. We talked about some of the stuff with Riley Dodge. And we've talked about games from when you played, from when you coached. We've talked about games from when I played or coached. I want to hear a play. One play, TK's under center, most memorable, something you'll never forget, crazy happened, something, whatever it is, what made it stick out, why. But remember, it's one play, so you got to paint the picture.
One play. I mean, there's a couple that come to mind. I think one that I would say, okay, senior year, we're actually decent at this point. So to provide previous context, pretty terrible my sophomore and junior year. So we're actually good at this point. We had just played our rival, Pampa, just beat them for the first time in a while as well. And in that game, I rushed for like 150 yards or something like that. But I had like a 60-yard, basically A gap, cut back touchdown. And anyway, so now the very next game, we're playing Caprock High School. And coach calls, something similar play. It was basically an option. I wasn't that much of a thrower. If it was like, hey, rear back and throw it to your best friend there. And so anyway, we're playing Caprock, and it's option to the right or something like that. And I knew that they had saw it, and they were scouting it out, and that I was kind of known to pitch it pretty early or take off right now and just try to outrun you. And so obviously I attacked the defensive end, running at them. And I gave, which at the time, like in my mind, I thought it was like
You thought you were Mike Vick.
Dude, I was like, yada! I thought the nastiest, almost like I feel like I rolled the football in the back of my hand, like any given Sunday or whatever. And then caught it and then go back and you look at it on film and it was actually like a little bit tiny fake, but faked. Homeboy in front of me like almost jumps out to go get the ball. I tuck, and as soon as I tuck, I end up having to make a cut back outside, and then I pop it for like 82 yards on the sideline. And it was at that moment that I was like, maybe I am slightly fast. Maybe I'm okay. I can't throw it very well, but that was kind of the one play that for me, the rest of the year, like I felt confident running the football, throwing the football, and it kind of, didn't have that success the last couple of years. So that's probably one play that sticks out in my mind.
That man was West Texas fast.
Hey, man, hey. They had angles too, man. Like, hey, it was a deep third safety, and he was just didn't get me.
Had to go find that extra gear, that fourth gear.
Yeah,
drop the hammer down.
What was that? I mean, what was your play? What did you have?
So mine's not.
Was it Weatherford Baylor? I mean, what was it?
It was the more memorable was definitely Baylor. And what's funny is what made it so memorable. Right, the highest of highs. The reason I remember that one so well is because how humbled I was like the very next week. So 2010, at this point, Baylor hasn't gone to a bowl game in 16 years.
It's good.
Right. But we're 5-2, right? I think we just cracked the top 25 or we do the next week.
What year is this?
2010.
Okay.
And we're playing Kansas State at home, homecoming. And the boys are balling out. Terrence is making big plays. Josh Gordon's making big plays. Lanier runs a slant, catches it, reverses back out to the sideline. Everybody's just making plays. Special teams guy.
You're next.
Right? Hey, you just got to know your role. Know your role on the team. So Their starting nickel, I always forget his name. Kid was a stud. Had like 120 tackles that year. 5'8.5", $180. It's like the first guy on a kickoff return that I was bigger than that I was going to block.
Classic Kansas State.
Right? Just a hustle guy for Bill Snyder. And we're running a kickoff return down our sideline. And I played on the front line on the back side. Coach Babers, the receivers coach, he's the kickoff return coach. And he was like, hey, kill shot this week. Right? This is still, they're transitioning the rules of kickoff return. They had just eliminated the 3-man wedge, but you get 2-man wedge.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't quite dialed back like the, crackback illegality and all that. So he was like, their starting nickel is going to sit right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's your guy. He's going to be at the return. You need to smoke him right about the time McHale gets to you. That way he never changes direction. He beats the kicker. We score a touchdown. I was like, all right. See the ball kick deep right where he said it'd be. Bate catches it like right at the goal line, maybe the 1 yard line. Kind of fake like I'm going to go block the kicker. Dial down at the hash, and I mean it was just how coach said it, right? Like, I mean, dialed it up.
This is the moment.
This dude sits down. He just kind of chills right there. He's kind of bouncing, reading the return. And I bring the flipper. I bring just through his cheek, up his eyeball. I mean, just destroy him with all 188 pounds that I had.
Let's go.
And knock him to the ground, kind of like slowly drag my body across his face, crawl up, look back. We got like a 26-yard return, but I destroyed an all Big 12 starting defensive player. And I was like, this is it.
We made it.
This solidifies that I could do this week in and week out. And not only am I going to start getting like my job done, but this is going to prove that like y'all need to feed me the pill.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm building off of that. And we were a pretty decent return team. We win that game. So now we're bowl eligible, top of the world, 6 games. Crazy, right? We go to Austin the next week. First kickoff return. Same thing. We set it up to go away from our sideline instead of 2. Like that was the big curveball. Chalky Brown, another starting corner. Played in the league for like 2 or 3 years, but he was like not 5'8". He was like 6'2".
It's DK Metcalf over there.
Well, he was still only like a $185, but I was looking eye to eye at him, not down.
Yeah.
But same thing, like I weave through and I got my shot. He's sitting right where he's supposed to be, not looking, almost flat-footed. I was like, we're 2 for 2.
Whoa.
This is a wrap. And right as I dropped down to give homeboy the flipper, it looked like, a bee flew by his ear because he gave a little flicker of the shoulder.
Oh, man.
And I don't really know what happened, but the next thing I remember is being on the ground looking up, and he hadn't moved.
So he was just like staring at you.
Just like. And then he looked at me and goes, don't ever try that again. Okie dokie. Clearly he had watched tape and knew that the white kid was going to come across the field and try and take a cheap shot.
What was his name?
Chalky Brown, East Texas kid.
Chalky Brown?
Yeah.
We need to get Chalky Brown on the phone. And
he'll probably be like, I have no idea what you're talking about because legitimately it was very – actually, he'll remember that game. He had a bad game. And I like to think that I had, a little to do with that. I got in his head early.
He got a little cocky too early. Is what happened.
He dropped a couple punts, turned the ball over, gave up a couple big plays.
Yeah,
we won that game too. So you know,
people don't realize how big these dudes are.
Oh my gosh, it's the most frustrating thing of my entire career.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like when I went to Tarleton, I walk in there, I'm just like, what is this right now? I mean, especially coming from like West Texas, like, I mean, like you're the big fish in a small pond. You know what I mean? And I get there and. I wasn't like cocky, but I was like, I'm about to ball out here. Half of the reason was probably because I didn't really take a true official visit. And so I was like, I'm probably the biggest quarterback in the room. No, there was about 4 Tim Tebow's in there, just monsters. And then we had Nick Stevens, who was 6'4", 250. And I was like, I'm literally the smallest person in this room right now. Maybe I need to go across over there to the wide receiver room.
Somebody, senior, looks at you like, hey, specialists are down the hall.
Yes, yeah, hey, kickers are over there. Like, oh, no, okay.
No, I'm supposed to be here. I promise.
Yeah,
here's my hall pass.
Yeah, it's a different level. I mean, like, yeah, it's like I was saying, at Lipscomb we would have NFL players come all the time and train, and here we just had a few NFL players come in to train, and it's like even the ones that you think are small when you see them in person, you're like, whoa, you're actually like even if you're 5'11", you're jacked, like you're big, like you're
Yoked.
thick.
Yeah.
Yeah. People don't understand. Like they're just it's a different breed.
Like there was a part of me that kind of hated being out in public with my teammates. Like I freaked out one time. They're like, "Hey, we're all going here." I'm like, "You guys don't get it.
Yeah.
In the real world, I'm an above average size human.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit taller and a little bit bigger than most of the people I'm around. And then I walk literally anywhere with y'all and I look like a shrimp." You're talking about Terrence Williams pushing 6'3", Josh Gordon 6'4", Andrew Sumter, another walk-on receiver, 6'3", Stacey Williams 6 foot. We're talking about, like, Lanier Sampson was the shortest guy. He's 5'11", but the problem was he squatted 700 pounds. So what he lacked in vertical dominance, he made up for with my quads are as big as your entire body.
Interesting.
So,
hey, quick question for you. What compare DK to Josh Gordon?
I think they're eerily similar. Like,
really?
what limited I know about DK, obviously he's fast, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing I would give to Josh, because watching DK run, even not just in the 100-meter dash, but when he ran down Patrick Peterson, forced a fumble, right? Like Josh Gordon ran that fast, but it didn't look like it.
He's like Terrell Pryor.
Just so smooth.
Yeah.
I remember the first day that Josh was on campus. We're doing summer workouts. We're doing our conditioning tests. We had 16 half-gassers. I'm losing my mind. Like, we had heard about this kid, seen him on his visit, freaking nature, huge guy. And I'm watching him run. I'm not listening, but I'm watching him run. And it's just, he had that, like, loose wrist run. Like, not a lot of arm action.
Yep.
But still, and I'm, like, yelling at him, like, "Let's go, man. Figure it out. Like, you're supposed to be trying. This is supposed to be hard." And then the next rep, I listened, and it was like 13, 14. And then I realized that he's in front of, like, 2/3 of the team. It's like, my bad. And then we go to the weight room.
Yeah.
And he puts 185 pounds on his back and squats it. And they're like, "All right, send him up." And a couple sets later, he's got 405 on his back, and both reps looked exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, like some of these people they're just different. There was a dude at Tarleton named Salim Hakeem. I don't know if you were there whenever he was there.
He left the year before I got there, but I saw tape.
Yeah, okay, so Salim Hakeem, he's at Tarleton. He transferred to us. I'm not sure where. I think, matter of fact, he was a soccer player, I think. Didn't really play football. Anyway, so we get him to come to Tarleton. He's a receiver, 5'11", maybe, for sure 225. 220, but still, he's over 200. He's thick. Anyway, and and looked like a bodybuilder. And I remember we had his pro day, and he went 4.24. And I was there. I mean, I saw the dude with the Packers and the Giants, and I saw his 4.24 when we had a 4.25. He ran it again, 4.25. Like, that speed is just different. And like when he would run, you're thinking, oh, that's a smooth 4.4, maybe a 4.5 flat. Nope. Like when you see that and then you realize like that's a 4.2, that's different. All these people that are like, yeah, I'm a 4.3. Nope, you're not. You're a 4.5. You're a 4.6. Like you get on that FAT, that laser time, man, and then you have these people that are running true 4.3s laser time. It's different.
That's my favorite is
Rare.
The kids that, they do like their school combine or regional combine. They post their times, and I can't. It was a couple years ago. I saw some guy was like, "Man, it's crazy how many of these guys that just got drafted in the first 3 rounds got slower from their senior year of high school to the NFL combine." Right? And it's like, you guys don't understand. And not as fast as Salim, but I saw Josh Gordon run 4.39 with my own eyes. Didn't believe it. I had just run my test day. We did this thing in the off season. It's called Fast Friday. Coolest thing in the world. We would test a collection of different drills, whether it be 5, 10, 5, L cone, 40, broad jump, vertical, 225. We would do all of these different tests, and they would pick 3 or 4, and you would do a full warm up, and you do it every Friday, right? So it's a weekly tracking of your progression, in strength, in explosiveness, in top speed, all that. And Josh and Willie Jefferson showed up. Like, we were supposed to work out together. They were late. Shocker. But on Fast Friday, it didn't really matter. So I had already done my stuff. I'd run my 240s, and Josh and Willie were running. And Willie's 6'6.5", like 240. So, like, who cares, right? Who cares what he runs? But, he's still moving. But then Josh gets in, and if you PR'd on the 40, Coach Adam Davis, he would, so Josh Gordon, PR. But every once in a while, when somebody did something that was like, whoa, he'd call at the time. And like, Willie had just PR'd. Josh gets in, and, like, Josh kind of always thought that, like, they were kind of BS, like, whatever, okay. And then Josh gets in, finishes, and there's, like, this long pause. Coach Davis goes, Josh Gordon, 4.39, PR. And I just stopped because I was, like, walking out to go to the weight room to do, like, 225 and, like, my whatever the rest of the workout was.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not real. Just no chance. And it just, everybody just started looking around.
Yeah.
And he just started laughing. Like, how about that?
It's unbelievable.
He was, so Bo Trahan's quarterback coach at Tulsa. He was on staff at Baylor. And I asked him, it's the end of the 2010 season, which was kind of Josh's, like, breakout year. Josh had, like, 4 catches as a freshman. Our buddy David Geddes gets drafted by the Carolina Panthers. And, like, after the second day of OTAs or, like,
UTPB coach?
Huh?
David Geddes, UTPB?
Yeah.
Okay.
Former UTPB coach.
Yeah.
But he said, like, first time he came back, he was like, bro, I'd been there 48 hours and people are already asking about Josh. And he's coming off of, like, legitimately 4 catches as a freshman. That's how big of a freak he was. But so 2010 blows up, has like 800 yards. That's with Terrence Williams almost having 1,000. Kendall Wright having, 11, 1,200.
Mm-hmm.
Lanier having 500, 600. Like, just, oh, by the way, Tevin Reese is still on that team. But I asked Bo one time at practice, I said, how good is he? Because Bo walked on and he was in University of Texas program for a little bit. He said he's the most athletic person I've ever been around.
Just person in general.
He said, VY, Cedric.
Oh, shoot.
He said the most naturally athletic person, just God-given ability.
Dang it, bro.
Like, you look at, he still holds NFL records. The guy had 1,400 yards receiving, maybe 1,800. I don't know. Freakish numbers. Didn't even play the whole season. Was suspended 2 games.
I remember that.
Had 500 yards. He's the only receiver to ever have back-to-back 200-yard games.
What a freak.
Just
golly.
And super, like, I told you last time how, like, what my role was whenever we would travel and whatnot. And so when me and Josh would, like, room together, we got to be pretty good friends. I would like to think. One of the nicest dudes. Like, if he liked you, if he trusted you, great dude. Really? And so, like, I say that to say that, like, no matter what, at the end of the day, I will always root and cheer for Josh Gordon.
That's awesome.
So
that really is awesome. Yeah, it's cool to see people like that. Kind of goes back to the first part of the conversation. Just embrace it. Just enjoy it. You don't see those things every day, so it's really cool to see that.
I'll never forget. Like, there's a bunch of them, but we're playing Tech, and literally the first play Josh goes in, they just run a go ball, and in about 4 steps, he was behind the DB that's playing off coverage, catches a touchdown.
Yeah, that's where, like, you as a, like, offensive coordinator, it's like, hey, coach, what do you want to call here? I don't know, fade to Josh.
Yeah, throw the ball to 12.
Hey, it's 3rd and 1. What do you want to do? I don't know, fade to Josh.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter. We're on the -1 yard line. What do you want to do? Fade to Josh. Like, don't overthink it here.
We ran, like, in that same K-State game, I think Josh scored twice. One of them is, like, he runs, like, a little, I don't want to call it a button hook because, it's not 1988, but.
Dude, I haven't heard that since, wow.
He's curl window, right? Yeah. Completely stationary. Catches it probably on, like, the plus 23 still, and just kind of reverses out nonchalant and just just casually outruns everybody to the pylon.
Yeah, it's like you have very few people like the Josh Gordons, the Cam Newtons of the world that like, because you see it in high school all the time. Like you see tons of middle school,
Phenoms.
like, oh yeah, for Reek. And it was like, well, you're genetically ahead, like around 30 years, ahead of everybody else. And then, as you get to high school, you're going to have those freaks as well, to where even like VY, like it's just different, right? And then you very rarely have those guys, your VYs, your Cam Newtons, that get to the like P5 level and still make people look like, I hate to say it, but stupid. Like they're still head and shoulders above everybody else. Like it's very rare. And then it's even more rare, obviously, to get to the NFL and still continue to do that to everybody else.
I mean, look at Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Somebody from the Dallas Morning News, I can't remember, they made that like little 5-minute video of like, is Kyler Murray the greatest Texas high school football player? Which, in my opinion, if you win that title, it then becomes ever. Like, you're the greatest high school football player ever. If you win
for like a Sandlot forever.
Like if you're the best here, you're the best anywhere.
Absolutely.
And they show some clips of like some things that he did at Allen, like some plays that he made, some runs that he had. And you can almost overlay it with things that he's done in the NFL to All-Pro or Pro Bowl type players in the open space. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all.
The amount of ankles that he's taken from people it's incredible.
The other one that I think like, and this could be like subjective, but I'm a big Johnny Manziel fan. His game.
Well, I hope his game. Yeah.
But the things that, especially going from like nobody knows who you are.
Sure.
And that fast, but like the things he even with how clouded his mind was and the things that were going on like off the field when he was in Cleveland, there were still flashes. Where things came out and you're like, you shouldn't be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wasn't even a 4.4 guy. He was like 4.53 at the combine, which, by the way, for those watching at home, is still really fast.
Mm-hmm.
In case you're not sure, that's really fast.
Oh, yeah.
But he wasn't. I say that because, he wasn't Chris Johnson 4.28. He wasn't, Josh Gordon 4.39. He wasn't that kind of like top tier elite speed, but he was still able to make things happen and make plays that when you watch kind of don't make sense.
Sure.
They don't fit the profile or the perception that you get from like when he walks out in his uniform on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Absolutely. Comes back to just embrace it.
It's got to.
Appreciate it. Yep.